Is it actually possible for Bitcoin to hit $1 million a coin? From where Bitcoin is sat today, it seems impossible to imagine $1 million Bitcoin. It's actually a lot easier than you think, and here's why. In this video, I'm going to break down how it could be possible for Bitcoin to hit $1 million a coin, and this is based off a lot of different factors. One being on-chain metrics when it comes to Bitcoin and its supply, also macroeconomic factors, and also predictions from other economists and financial experts. $1 million Bitcoin price, although seems ambitious, is actually theoretically very possible. And the first thing we want to look at is Bitcoin itself as an asset. Bitcoin, as many of you will know, has a fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoin, with approximately 19.8 million Bitcoin already out in circulation. The amazing thing about Bitcoin is that it has a fixed supply, meaning you cannot just print more Bitcoin like the current fiat system and what is going on with the devaluation of current fiat currencies like the US dollar, the euro, and the pound. Also, what we need to understand is the rate of inflation for Bitcoin, as there is a percentage of the Bitcoin supply not in circulation yet. This is where Bitcoin mining comes in, and also the Bitcoin halving. Every 4 years, the mining rewards gets cut in half. This reduces the rate of new Bitcoin being introduced into the market and also increases its scarcity. So by 2030, post the 2028 halving, Bitcoin will only have an inflation rate of 0.5%, which is actually less than the inflation rate of gold. This is really important to understand. There is going to be less Bitcoin going into circulation than there is new gold being found and mined. And that is why Bitcoin is often referred to as digital gold. The next thing we need to take into account when it comes to Bitcoin is the institutional adoption and the introduction of the ETF products. In January of 2024, we had the first ever Bitcoin spot ETF introduced. Just to give you some background, when the first ever spot ETF gold product came out in 2003, gold ended up going on an 8-year bull cycle. Could something similar happen to the price of Bitcoin? This is looking quite likely. If we look at the Bitcoin spot ETF inflows, the ETF product has been the most adopted ETF product ever. And if this volume continues, then $1 million Bitcoin could be right around the corner. With the Bitcoin ETF also being introduced to traditional financial companies, this opens up the door for $36 trillion of asset under management to now get access to the likes of Bitcoin. This is huge. As Cathie Wood predicts, if these institutions start introducing Bitcoin to their clients and they have an average of around 2.5 to 6.5% allocation into Bitcoin, this would mean that Bitcoin's market cap would end up around that $20 trillion mark. If that's the case, then Bitcoin would actually be worth over $1 million a coin. Not only that, but we need to take into account that the US government has also just announced that they would be creating their own Bitcoin strategic reserve. They already have over 200,000 Bitcoin in the reserve that they are no longer going to sell. And they also have a plan to acquire an extra 800,000 Bitcoin, totaling over 1 million Bitcoin in the reserve. Not only could this actually help decrease the US deficit, but could also help increase the price of Bitcoin, as that supply is going to be taken off of the market and stored for a prolonged period of time, as they don't have any plans to sell Bitcoin anytime soon. The next thing we need to take into account is the macroeconomic environment and the fact that the economy is becoming more and more uncertain. What we need to understand is that the dollar is actually being devalued quite a lot. It's gone down over 11% in value just since January, which is an insane decrease in the value of the dollar. We also have other fiat currencies like the pound, the euro, but also more struggling economies like the Argentinian dollar, and that is because their inflation is insanely high and their currency is devaluing very rapidly. And we can see this as Bitcoin has just hit a new all-time high against the Argentinian dollar. This is why people are seeing Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and a hedge against the devaluation of their dollar. And this is why you now have countries introducing Bitcoin as legal tender, like El Salvador, for example. Since they introduced Bitcoin around 5 years ago, they have not only decreased their national debt, but they're actually even profitable by holding Bitcoin right now. And their citizens are using Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis. You can also see that there is an expansion in the global liquidity index, meaning that countries around the world are turning on the money printer. When you have more money in circulation than goods and services, this increases inflation and devalues the currency. And this is happening on a global scale. And that's why Bitcoin has actually held up a lot better than the stock market during the Trump tariffs. Bitcoin's going to be an attractive store of value in comparison to gold. One, because Bitcoin is completely open source, which means everyone in the world has access to buy up Bitcoin. As in, there is a lot of people who are unbanked, cannot hold physical gold, or can't get access to ETF products. And that's because over 1 billion people actually don't have digital IDs or any identification to get access to any of this capital. And that's why Bitcoin is king. As long as you have a phone and internet, you can get access to it. Cathie Wood, who's the CEO of ARK, predicts that Bitcoin could be worth anywhere between 1.5 million to 2.3 million by 2030. And that's based on the fact that we'll have a global market of over $200 trillion and a 6.5% adoption of Bitcoin across institutions. Raoul Pal, who's the CEO of Real Vision Group, actually predicts that Bitcoin could be worth over $1 million of coin in 2025. That's going to be if we have an absolutely parabolic move, and it's driven by the network effect and also macroeconomics. Do you think Bitcoin could hit $1 million a coin in 2025? Let us know what your thoughts and what your price prediction for Bitcoin is in the comments down below. Michael Saylor, who's the chairman of MicroStrategy, who's very well known for buying a lot of Bitcoin and almost holds over 2% of the Bitcoin supply as it stands, has also emphasized the fact that he believes that Bitcoin will hit over $1 million of coin in the next couple of years. On the flip side, you also have skeptics like Warren Buffett, who has famously called Bitcoin rat poison. Warren Buffett is very well known for being the stock market king and prefers to invest in traditional markets. And Bitcoin is still relatively new and also seen as a speculative asset in his opinion. Nouriel Roubini also says that he thinks Bitcoin is a scam and a bubble and will collapse due to market speculation. This is a tale as old as time, as we have so many examples of a lot of technological advancements that people have seen as fads that they think are not valuable and will go away. Prime example being computers, and then we had the internet, and then we had social media. All three have gone from something that people have been really speculative about, calling it fads, saying that it's never going to survive, to now being globally adopted and something that people can't live without. Is this where Bitcoin is headed? Let us know your thoughts. So what does this mean for you guys? Bitcoin right now, at its current price, is cheap in comparison to where it could be in 10 to 20 years time. Bitcoin is now seen as a store of value and also seen as a long-term hold. This is like buying Apple, Coca-Cola, Facebook, Amazon, a lot of these really early stocks at the start of their journey. Everything lines up for Bitcoin to continue to be the best performing asset in the next decade. Even having a small percentage of Bitcoin in your portfolio, 1%, 2%, could make all the difference. For me personally, I'm going to be dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin for the next decade. I see Bitcoin as my retirement account, and you should too. Statistics say that if you hold one Bitcoin, that by 2040, you could be a millionaire. Bitcoin is the long-term investment, but you shouldn't ignore the rest of the crypto market, as altcoins also have the opportunity to actually gain more value than Bitcoin over a shorter period of time. This is where you've heard of altcoins doing 10x's, 50x's, 100x's, and it is possible. I witness this every single day. But what you need is a proper altcoin strategy to be able to take advantage of the next phase of the bull market, which is upon us within the next 6 to 12 months. And this is so you can squeeze as much value out of the crypto markets and redistribute into Bitcoin, your retirement account. We're currently in the last phase of the bull market, so the next 6 to 12 months is where you can squeeze the most amount of value out of your crypto. Whether you're a beginner in crypto, experienced, or are not in the market yet but want to create their own crypto portfolio, and they need that extra helping hand, then make sure you click the link down below where you can apply to become one of my students, where I can coach you in the crypto markets, and make sure that you guys exit the market at the right time, so you're not waiting another 4 years to become profitable in crypto.